So Wick asked a really good and kind of complicated answer. So this next segment's probably going to be a little long and probably full of some TMI. So just fast forward if you're not interested. But he asked, how did I get involved in the WoW music and machinima community? And to really understand that, you have to understand a little bit about where I was at in my life last year. My husband, who I've been married to for 13 years, has a disability that makes it hard for him to work and support the family. So probably the last at least 10 years or so, I've been the main provider for the family. We have 4 kids, and so that's a lot of responsibility for one person to be the mom and the provider and to take care of everything. 3 years ago, I was managing restaurants, multiple restaurants. They were 24-hour restaurants, and it was very difficult. I felt like I never got to see my kids, and, you know, bless his heart, my husband wasn't Mr. Mom. So I decided to quit managing restaurants and open a daycare. So I opened a daycare 3 years ago, and it grew pretty quickly into 2 locations, and I partnered up with my sister. But long story short, last year, due to some difficulties with the economy, some mismanagement of payments to the IRS, and a very bad accountant that made things much worse, we got into some real financial trouble. We ended up losing one of the locations. Basically, last year was one of the hardest times of my life. I went through a personal bankruptcy. We had to close one of our facilities. We almost lost the second facility. It was only because I stepped in and worked really, really hard to keep it open that it stayed open this long. We still have some of the trouble with the IRS, and all of this caused me to almost get a divorce. So yeah, it was a really rough time in my life. And that was last September when I stepped in and took back over the one facility. It was probably a good 8 or 9 months later. I was just driving down the road, and that song, I'm a Bee by Black Eyed Peas came on the radio. And I just got thinking, I'm like, oh, that's really funny. I'm a tree, you know, somebody should do that. I thought someone probably already had. But I certainly didn't think that any point that somebody would be me. I just thought, oh boy, somebody with more time or, you know, more, I don't know, younger would do something like that. But yeah, so it was probably a couple days later that I started looking on the net to see if anybody had done that, and couldn't find anybody that had done a WoW parody of that song, I'm a Tree. And so I realized I was no fun anymore. All I did was work, and work and work and work some more. Sometimes I played WoW, you know, and that was about the extent of my fun. But I was grumpy a lot of the time, and I just wasn't a fun person anymore, and I missed that part of me, being fun Sarah. So I decided, what the heck, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to make this parody. I still remember that night jumping up and down on the bed with my kids singing, I'm a tree, I'm a tree. I remember my husband laughing as I came up with the different lines, especially he liked that one about him. And I was fun again. And I remembered who I used to be. I remembered how I used to be. And yeah, I wanted to be like that again. So I started working on that project. I did put out a couple of short videos right before that while I was working on I'm a Tree. But really, I'm a Tree was what inspired me to do this. Once I got working on these videos and putting them on YouTube, I found this rich community of so much talent and people that shared the same interests as me. And I have to tell you, I got hooked. I just meant that once that valve was open, I just couldn't shut it off. The ideas just kept coming. I filled up 3 or 4 notebooks with ideas, a lot of which you've never seen from me and a lot of which you never will. But out of that, I think sometimes some good stuff comes. And so, yeah, now you're stuck with me.